All right. Good morning. Time for some coding. So, it's always fun to basically not think about something for a whole week and then try to get back into it. Past me left some notes, which is fortunate, and left some uncommitted changes as a breadcrumb. So as I recall, we were working on this food search, and I think the debate last time was, should I try to like integrate XState into Redux because we have this fancy state machine, and I think the decision was for now that maybe we didn't need all of this. Like, the utility of this was in figuring out how it's supposed to work, and maybe we can live without this for now, and maybe just try doing this logic but inside of Redux. And so we had started that by setting up these reducers to and then the actions that the Redux Toolkit provides for us by defining the reducers. So we have these different actions here that we can perform when the user enters text. So, and again, for a little context, do we have the, I think we saw last time that we didn't have stories for the part of the UI where we can see the food search, but let me log in really quick and we can look at that. But basically this is the how you find things to add to your food diary. Is you can search by text, or you can search by barcode UPC with a little scanner thing that we use your camera, and yeah, so we can search here. Of course, this isn't doing anything right now because it's all broken as we've been replacing the old state management solution with using Redux. But you'd be able to either enter text, or you'd be able to click this little thing that would launch the barcode scanner, which is not working right now because this computer doesn't have a webcam. But like on mobile, this would just use your built-in camera. But yeah, so there's some logic here. Basically, once you click this, and the thing we're missing right now is where you actually leave this dialog. Or to go back to the text search. I guess I can just refresh to get out of that. But there's logic to kind of like move between those different states. And in fact, there's kind of also logic for like doing a quick search if we just like type stuff in versus doing a non-quick search by clicking the search thing or hitting enter. That does like a more thorough search that like reaches out to external sources. So all sorts of stuff going on with that we're trying to keep track of what we're doing with these different views that are part of the state for our food search slice. We're also keeping track of kind of are we loading the food search information and then what results we get. And then also we're also keeping track of once you've picked a food that's like, oh, I think I want to add that food to my diary. Like that's the thing I'm looking to add to my breakfast, let's say. This keeps track of that until you've actually confirmed like portion size and all those things. And then once you get confirmed, then it would grab that food out of here and send it to the back end and add it to your diary and all that stuff. So A little bit of background on what this is supposed to do is good to just check to make sure that I remember what we're trying to do here more broadly. And then, so we left it to do. This should be a thunk. So I think specifically enter text should be a thunk. And so the comment here is so that we can set a timer to debounce the search. So one of the features of the old mechanism was that you would type something in, and assuming you had not typed anything else in a period of time, it was 500 milliseconds, so half a second. Then if you haven't typed anything for that period of time, then we would trigger a quick search. And then if you had typed something, if you continue typing before the timer elapses, then that quick search wouldn't happen until it had been 500 milliseconds since you typed. And this seemed to work okay in terms of like how the UI was behaving before. So I think we want to just keep that behavior, but we need to re-implement that using Redux is kind of where that landed last time. Because the alternative would be we could try to integrate xstate, because we have an xstate state machine that implements that same logic. But I kind of just want to see what this might look like if we were just to use Redux. So I think what I will do is I will pull up one of our existing slices where we are defining a thunk. Kind of refresh my memory of how to do all of this. So we have this quick search delay state. And so we want to use a thunk because we can't just, we don't want to manipulate, because we could just, what we're going to need to do is to create some kind of timer. You set timeout or something to start keeping track of, hey, has it been 500 milliseconds? Has the time elapsed yet? And that kind of state isn't something that we want to have. Isn't something we want to have like manipulating inside of the reducers. I think we need a thunk for that to be proper, and because I think we will need this thunk API probably, maybe, to be able to do some of that work. Does this make sense? So that we can set a timer to debounce the search, and also so that we can cancel the search if the user changes the search text. Right? So let's just move a little forward here. So we'll export const. So right now we have insert text. So we're going to replace this reducer with a thunk. We'll just call it the same thing. Create async thunk. Yep. Copilot is guessing that we're going to end up using some kind of insert text procedure. I think we are going to have a payload, but it's not going to be. We'll figure out what the type is in a minute. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll remove this export, And then we need to figure out how we're going to do this. What is payload here? Where are we using enter text? We are dispatching it, so we're just getting a string. Right, so this is just a string. And then what are we doing with said string? We could simply return the payload, and then in extra reducers, basically we're going to say that, so that this function, because it's an async function, is going to return a promise of a string in this case. And so because I don't think it's not a thing, I'm pretty confident it's a thing you're not supposed to do, and I don't know if there's even a good way of doing it, of manipulating the state from inside the thunk. I think instead the idea is that we want to, we're not actually doing anything with this enter text in terms of like manipulating it or like calling an API or anything. We can just pass it through. But what we want to do in the thunk is essentially say, okay, we're going to do some side effects that are going to potentially, at some later point, might run some actions. Dispatch some actions would be a better word to use. So, so what we want to do is essentially say, essentially what we're doing here in enter text now, we're just reproducing that here. And then we know that payload is a string somehow. And so then we don't need this reducer any further. So this so far just reproduces the functionality that we just had before, where you could type in text in the UI, it would dispatch out that enter text action that we were exporting, and that would update the state. So this does, I think, just the same thing, just with an extra step of running this thunk and then awaiting the promise, waiting for the promise to be fulfilled. And we're not going to add a reject case here because that can't happen for now anyway. So now the meat of this is that we need to handle kind of debouncing the search. So we want to, what do we need to do here? We could potentially use quick search delay to actually not be a counter, but instead to actually be the timer, like a handle for the timer. And that would mean that we could effectively debounce by checking to see if this existed. If it did, we could cancel the timer and create a new timer. Then we would need to pass that timer handle back into the state. So then maybe maybe this would change. This payload would actually be more things. I don't know. Actually, let's call this text, just to be very clear. There we go. But yeah, I think let's Let's update the comment here to explain what we're trying to do. I mean, this is kind of redundant because debouncing the search is canceling the search if the user changes the search text. Is that true? Canceling the search. I think we're not going to implement canceling the search right now. We just want to debounce. And we can trigger a quick search if the user doesn't type anything. Okay, set a timer to debounce the... well, really what we're doing here for intertext is we're just dealing with quick search, right? So we're never going to kick off a full search, whether or not you enter things quickly or slowly or whatever. The full search happens when you click the button. Okay, and those details I don't think are necessarily relevant. So then we can get a handle on the Thunk API. And we can get a hold of state. We're calling this food search. Yeah, like that. Exactly. I don't think you can do that, though. Like, I don't think that is an allowed thing to directly manipulate state from inside of the thunk like this. I think what we need to do is to do some kind of dispatch. To do dispatch. Yeah. So if the timeout elapses, then we'll dispatch the quick search. And the idea will be that if the user enters text again before this happens, then we need to, let's see, and then the other thing we need to do is that. But again, we can't do that. The action that we're going to dispatch, I think we'll have to do that to clear the quick search delay. And we're going to rename this as well. So quick search timeout. And then I guess that timeout does return a number, which is like the handle. But if, yeah, exactly, Copilot. If there is a timeout, we do want to clear the timeout. But the other thing we need to do is we need to, I mean, I guess we're gonna, oh, and again, I'm doing the thing here that I said that we can't do. So we're gonna say const quick search timeout is that. So if there is a timeout, we're gonna clear it. Clear does what I think it does, right? It like cancels it. I'm not misremembering what this API does. MDN clear timeout. Cancels a timeout previously established by calling set timeout. Yep. All right, and then I think we need to return an object here. So we are returning both the text and the quick search timeout that we are creating or recreating, so that that's available in our case for fulfillment. Right, and so then, yep, and text. So now we are allowing our thunk to provide us a new timeout to replace the existing one, and then the text as well. So I think we should be able to do the dispatch here somehow. quick search text. Of course, quick search doesn't exist. Does there need to be a separate action or thunk for search versus quick search? Maybe not. We have this bit of state here for whether or not this is a quick search. What makes sense to do here? Right, so search could... I mean, search is going to take the search text. Or is it? No, it doesn't need to, right? Because it's going to take... Okay, let's do this. We have this handy state machine that describes how this is supposed to work. At least partially. And maybe this will remind me of how some of this is supposed to go. Was it middle click? Yeah, middle click to drag. So text to context, yada yada yada. Okay, maybe not. Is it the bottom of this file that has kind of actions from the state machine? And then we have these different search mechanisms. We have search external foods by name, search external foods by UPC, and search food by name. So this is our function that does the quick search. And then these are the normal searches based on whether or not we are kind of using UPC or search text. And so we're doing this if you click the search button when you are on one of these views, either the quick search result view or the normal view. But on the other hand, if you are on the... So to get to search food by code, you have to be on the barcode scan search state to use that. Okay. So what I want to have happen is when the user is typing text into the text field here, some text is entered, it's been half a second, then we do a quick search. I want that quick search state to be set to true so that we are in that mode of, we're now in the quick search mode. And then we're going to have results, presumably, come back to us because we're going to implement a thunk to do the quick search. I guess what I'm uncertain about, like we can make a thunk for a quick search, right? That goes and does the work, and then we'll handle a case. Wait. Isn't there a way? Yeah, not rejected, but isn't there... Is it pending? Right, that's how what we're doing other places to do stuff when the thunk is first dispatched, right? Like technically here for intertext, we could set the search text to the text in a builder.add case intertext.pending. We're not doing any kind of loading, but we could do this, I think. Interesting. Payload.payload. What is the type of that? Undefined? Maybe it's just arg. Doesn't exist. I think maybe we just we don't. Payload is undefined. Type is string. Meta is. Like, I think we could do something like that. It's not going to matter in this case because our async action in the thunk is not doing any work. So I think it'll be fine just to do that. But what I was thinking though is specifically for the case of this quick search, like if we implement a thunk, we should be able to, when we are doing like the pending case, the loading case, we can set its quick search to true as well as setting loading to pending. So let's go ahead and make a, I'm going to capitalize this S. So let's make a quick search thunk. Which is also going to take a string. We'll to do API call. And then let's just kind of get this built. And then we're going to add, yeah, we'll eventually do that. First, pending. I don't think we need the action for this case. We're going to do state.loading as pending. State.is quick search equals true. So, to do. And we can add another one to the rejected case here as well. Do we not have like an error? Oh wait, I'm looking in the wrong place. So we have a barcode scanner error. I suppose we can also have like a general error thing. This will at least mirror what serialized error is not assignable to writable draft error. What are we doing in the other ones? So that means our state is just a string or null, not using the error object. Okay. String or undefined rather. Nope, string or null. Which is a bit different than what we were doing with barcode scanner error, but whatever. Anyway. Just keep going. What else do we need to do here? So I think, okay, we are doing that. So it's occurring to me that all these places we're handling fulfilled, where there's the same repetition of like clearing the error, setting the loading to idle. That is kind of a flag to me of something that could probably be addressed at some point. The other thing I need to think about here is we probably, at what point is quick search get set back to false? Is a question that I have right now. Like, probably. Let's go ahead and make the search thunk as well. In fact, let me just copy this thunk, and we'll call this search. And the reason I want this is so that one, I can get rid of this to do, and two, I can add some additional cases here, and yeah. Copilot's got it. So we're going to set loading to pending. We're going to set is quick search to false. We're going to add a fulfilled case. Yep. And we'll add a rejected case as well. And we don't need to export that action that no longer exists. So we have the skeleton of a quick search and kind of a full search here. And then so based on the view, use either the external name or external UPC searches, which is the logic that is implemented over in the X8 version of this. Is there anything else we need to do before we can start wiring this up to the back end? Probably. To do dispatch quick search, but we did that. Quick search. Oh yeah, we need to deal with the quick search timeout, right? So if we dispatch quick search, then we can also set state quick search timeout back to null. I have to say I'm already feeling kind of the complexity of, oh, we're setting this over here and make sure to, deal with it over there. And, a lot of this kind of coordination that I feel like the state machine version of this kind of bundled together pretty nicely. But let's see where this takes us. Let's see how bad this gets. Because one of the nice things about this being just a personal project of mine is it's not even about, in my day job, I would have to care about, oh, this is taking too long. This is a waste of time. Just make something, that's going to get the job done and is good enough, and move on to other things. But no, we're gonna explore this this direction and see where it leads. So where does it lead us? Right, so we need to do the thing. And probably what I can do here is, if I pull up xstate again, bring that over to the right hand side, we can look at the API calls. So we want to do the quick search version first, which is this search food by name action, wherever that is. And so that is in the old actions, is putting a search name event into our action subject. And that's not something I can F12 to find. So if action type is search name, oh, hey, look. So it all goes into one place anyway. If it's any of these things, then we'll filter that, and we will, oh, look, we were using debounce time. That was nice. I think this timeout is going to do the same thing. Yeah. It's just a little less explicit. And then we are switching off of the action type here. And we're calling this tRPC observable to do, basically we're querying our foods find by name tRPC procedure. So in here, tRPC, is it base tRPC? Dot query. That's a good guess, but no. What do these calls look like? I know I have an example here somewhere. Await base tRPC. Just grab that. I don't know if I probably want to save the result, but yeah. So here we go. So we're gonna do foods. Should have some autocomplete. Find by name. Query. What is query to? Oh, let me close down some of these things. So query takes an input object that takes a name key. And then we get a promise with a bunch of stuff in it. So then we can return a result, maybe? What is a result? So we get an array of these objects. So these are like foods. We don't need Thunk API in this Thunk. So then, I mean, really, if we're not going to manipulate the result, we can just return that directly. And then in our quick search, what we want to do is we just want to save out the results. Right? We want to say state.results equals action.payload. That's our array of objects of things. If we reject, I think we don't want to like clear out the results, and either the pending or rejected case, we'll leave them there. So like if you do a quick search, initially there won't be any results. Then you'll get results, and then if you start typing something else, then it will start doing that search, and it might take, you know, a little bit of time, hopefully not too much time, to pull results, at which point, you know, while that is loading, we'll have some kind of loading indicator, and then but we don't want to like discard the existing results, because that would just like kind of be like a potentially a quick flash of like results go away, come back. It might be a little jarring. I think it'll be better to like incrementally, well, maybe not incrementally is the wrong word, but essentially whatever results are there will stay there until we get the new results to replace them. So I might have to refresh. This isn't my error, is it? Yeah, something about blur height, something from a component that we're using. Okay, great. Now, it's definitely been more than 500 milliseconds. Did we... I have a Redux thing here. Let me also... Can I pop this out? Put this over to the side. There we go. So we see that there's intertext actions happening. But isn't intertext... Have I not saved this? It helps if I save the work. Okay, can we... Let's refresh. There we go. Okay. Test. Ooh. Okay. So what happened here? We entered text. We went pending. That didn't change. Yeah, that's not going to change the state, because it's fulfilled where we actually save. So we entered a T, and we set the timeout. That was timeout number 38. And then we inserted another character, so it became TE, and then we got timeout 39. Presumably 38 was canceled. Although, yeah, that... So let's look at this. So let's look at the last intertext when it was fulfilled. So quick search timeout 41. What are these? So this is not absolute time. I think this is like elapsed time since the last thing, right? So then we see the quick search pending that happened 0.51 seconds after intertext fulfilled. That means half a second after we entered that last character, then quick search pending started. So that changed our loading status from idle to pending. Set quick search to true, and remove the quick search timeout value, which means if we were to enter another text, it would not try to cancel the timeout that had already occurred. Not that maybe that would be fine, but best to clear up state to indicate kind of where we're at now. And then we fulfilled. And there were no results for test. Ginger. There were results. We have lots of stuff in the DB from past searches back from when this was working for Ginger. So we have results, but we're not showing anything. So that is progress of a kind. So we are needing to update whatever UI component is responsible for showing this. Can we look at the component tree? So you're right, this is the meal add food dialog. Meal add food, there we go. And then it's supposed to show search results. But we're not reading that. So that's why we're not getting any results, because we kind of left this incomplete. So, right, so now we have results in our food search state. And do we have, we do have a select results. So we should be able to simply use selector. Yeah. And what's this complaining about? It's called conditionally. So this, probably all of these things actually need to be before any kind of conditional statements, because these are React hooks. And then, so the other question is, do we have select food to add? Select is quick search. So we should be able to use selector to get all the rest of these things as well. Select food to add, yes, and select is quick search. All right, so if we go back to, hey, look, we have results. And this is, so this is what the quick search results look like. This is basically, so the app has a local database, that's what this tRPC procedure is querying. I can actually pull that up really quick. This was find by name in server procedures foods. A nice to do here about full text search, where this is currently using SQLite, and Prisma for SQLite does not support any kind of full text search, because SQLite doesn't, I guess. And Prisma seems to take an attitude of not like other tools I've used in the past to do with databases that support multiple databases might have like a shim either to stub out, even if it's not an efficient solution. But Prisma, just if you're using a database that doesn't support like enums, your schema for will error out, and so not even trying to do that right now. We are just simply querying our food model, so our table in SQLite, and just looking for the first 20 results that contain this. Not even doing any kind of like ordering specifically, I guess. We are asking for only things that are verified foods or created by the user. So that's kind of what the quick search does. It's this just looking in the DB, whereas we also have these external procedures that call these the Open Food Facts API to get results. It also copies that data into the DB for later use. But that is kind of the difference here for the app, at least right now, between the kind of the quick and the full search. It's probably going to change at some point. I think, I don't know. We'll see how it works out in the end. But for now, this is the behavior that I'm trying to have it do. So if I were to click this plus, this still doesn't do anything, right? Let's have this go back to being docked. So we don't have this button hooked up to anything. We could probably fix that though. We do still need to implement the full search, but you know, while I'm here doing this, right? So we have these add dispatch. We have these different handle this, handle that sort of things. Handle select food, add food to meal. So I think handle select food takes a food, and we are going to, whoops, that should have been this one. There we go. So when we select the food, what we want to do is we want to dispatch something, but not close dialog. We want to dispatch something that's going to allow us to set food to add. And I think we don't have such an action right now, but we can do that. That is a bit of a naming conflict though, because we have a selector called select food to add. I guess we don't want to call this also select food to add. Set food to add is a little bit more direct. So we'll do that. And now we have that action, and we can dispatch set food to add. Yep. Let me refresh. Add to that meal. We'll search for ginger. Again, just doing a quick search, and we get plus. Hey, we can get to this view now. All right. One thing, unfortunately, we don't have is the, 40 grams. Interesting. That's almost exactly what it says on the label, but we don't have the actual, like, serving amount. Like, we have this value, but I guess the food DB doesn't have the kind of the amount on the label as the recommended serving size. Oh, interesting. So this says 130. Why does this say 128? Some kind of rounding that happened somewhere along the line. Feels a little crowded right now. Could use a little bit of work on the layout of this. And this donut chart would be a little bit more interesting if we hadn't picked something that is all carbs. Also, shouldn't this be green to match this? Okay, anyway. And of course this button doesn't work either because we haven't hooked that up. That's that handle add foods and meals. But we're making progress. Making progress. So if I click done, we can get out of there. Clicking add to breakfast just brings us back to this view. It doesn't cancel out. If I click cancel, that doesn't do anything. We can probably implement that. Clear selected food should just be dispatch that same thing, but with a null. Bam. That brings us back to the quick search results. All right. Bam. Like I said, a little bit more interesting view. And this looks right this time, 56%. This number is essentially calorie contribution for this macro. Versus like absolute percentage of like 10 grams versus 16, because otherwise carbs would be the largest number. But on the other hand, on the other one, the whole graph was this blue color, which should correspond to fat, but it was all carbs. So I don't know what's up with that. Showing all results doesn't work. Clicking that doesn't. That gets rid of the thing that says this is a quick search result, because we did do that on search pending. We changed this quick search to false, but we're not actually like calling an API or getting results or anything. And then the barcode button sets scan barcode, which changes the view from text search to scanning, but that doesn't currently do anything. Probably should do something. Why does it not? Okay, so if the view, where are we looking at the view? All right, so here we go. Food search. All right, and this is the other place where we are integrating with our food search slice. Right, so this is complaining because we're trying to dispatch this thunk, and it doesn't seem to like that for some reason. At some point, I should figure out what we can type instead of any for dispatch. In fact, let me dispatch Typescript any. Save that search for later. So then we have handle search button click. And yeah, this is also complaining because search is a thunk, but I think also that our thunk right now is acting as if it's going to take a string. Did we have an example where we were, just taking nothing? I don't know if we'll even need thunk APIs. Let's just do that. Right, because what we're going to do in search is that we're going to look at the existing state. Oh, right, so we're going to need thunk API for that. To look at the existing state to figure out what kind of API call we're going to make and then pass in the right thing. And then, so this looks at view, and then if we look at food search, which is above here, so we go back to the UI. So we changed our view from text search to scanning when we clicked the barcode search. Of course, we've now closed the dialog, but let me refresh really quick. Let's look at that again. So we click this. So that did seem to be effective. I guess the other thing that we could maybe look at right now is so we're scanning, so we're showing the barcode scanner, and this barcode scanner component is doing a bunch of things. I'm guessing, though, that we are maybe just failing this check. I'll just add a console error here for now. Yep. So we're just hitting that case, and we are not then moving forward to set up the Quagga library. So we're just getting a black box here. We're just getting this black box here. Right. I guess I never did add anything here to get back out of this state specifically. Like, we should probably call on error here. Which Copilot immediately suggested. Ta-da! So this is what you should see. And then if we hit cancel, that just works because we must already have the right action hooked up there. Yeah, so we run this cancel barcode scan, and that brings us back to text search. So we fixed it, and we can retry. I can see that happening, and we can cancel. And that looks nice, by the way. All right, so, and then we can do a full search, but that doesn't do anything yet. So suddenly, we're very close to having this whole thing working again, which it's been quite a while. So I think on this very positive note, I'm going to take a little bit of break, refill my water, stretch my legs, and maybe put my desk in standing mode. But anyway, I'll be back in a few minutes. And I'm back. So I think the next step was to actually get the full search working, right? So, yep. Let's see. How far can Copilot get us? So if state.foodsearch.view is showing code, okay, else, that's almost a thing. It's actually foods.find external by UTC and find external by name. Okay. I think that, yeah, so found code is what should happen when the barcode reader successfully scans a code. It will dispatch the state, which will bring the view to showing code and set UPC text. I guess a question is, should we, I guess it doesn't matter, right? Because we're only going to, I was just thinking about, should we clear UPC text at some point or something? But I think this will be fine. Maybe. We'll see. So this should work, and then we just need to add the search fulfilled state.results equals action.payload. Why is it not like that? Number or undefined is not assignable to type number. So the shape of the data coming back from these are not quite the same. Interesting. What did we say about the type of results? Results is a food array. Which is this food output with ID. Right. Okay. Can we do or food output? That seems to have silenced the error. Let's see, where were we? Search fulfilled, idle results, error. Okay. So let's try this out really quick. So if we search for ginger, that does our quick search. If we click the search button, that thinks a bit. We still get 20 results, which is unsurprising. Let's search for something maybe that we have no results for, like have we ever searched for an apple? Okay, well, we have pineapple, but if we search show all results, oh, that's not hooked up, but this button is, yes? Okay. There we go. We get a bunch of results from Open Food Facts, including an actual apple. 24 results. Oh, there's some more apples down there. No picture. Okay. So anyway, so that works. And then all right, so we have quick search results. So that seems to work. Let's hook up the show all results button. So I think that is somewhere here. Ooh, search results. So we've also broken types elsewhere because search results now is not exactly the same type. So where's this defined? Okay. Can we, I guess we can expand this food output array. I have to import it. I might just end up changing the type. We'll see, we'll see. Search results list. Food array or food output array. Or food output. Okay. Did that. Why is the title still red? Oh, there's something down there. On add. Food or food output. And then, of course, this needs to change as well. On select food now needs to change. I wonder if maybe maybe this should actually be this. And then we can just undo all of these changes. And undo this change. And then remove this as well. We don't need that. Interesting. Is that... So I think the idea here was that let's look at the external search. Right, we are... Right, so I think part of this predates some of this work that I was doing to synchronize the data we're getting back from the API, from Open Food Facts, into the DB. And so potentially, before this stuff was implemented like this, we were essentially calling the API and just passing those results back to the front end. And so those items wouldn't have an ID from our database. But I believe that's no longer the case, right? So like if we look at this function, we have a DB food, which is just the underlying model, the type of the table. So there should be an ID in there. So these should output a food output with ID. And I suspect that the other one is actually no longer applicable. Right, so these are the Zod validators that we're using. And I'm gonna guess that this validator is not actually used. Find by UPC. Food output with ID. Okay. So just some legacy in this, but that means that then our type can just simply be, we can just refer to this food type, which now is that food type, that food with ID type inferred from the Zod validator. So that should make all of our type errors go away. And then, what was he doing? Right, I wanted to make it so that the show all results button actually worked. Show all results. So that uses this on show all results, which is hooked up to handle show all results, which does nothing right now. But this needs to dispatch search, which we are not importing here. Yeah, I was about to say that because the thunk is going to give us that same error. So handle add food to meal is the last handler that we need to implement here. What is that? So that should actually add the food. How do we do that? I don't know. So there's just one left. So let's add dispatch. And we'll remove this to do here. Yeah, to do loading component. Need to do that at some point as well. Hey, look, meal add food dialog options. So this was the thing tied into our old state management. That can go away. I guess we don't need that. We don't need use state here anymore. We are slowly getting things cleaned up. Great. So now, if we show all results, that just triggers a full search, and it's the same results. Are we? I'm just wondering right now in our external, find external by name. Oh, we are upserting. Okay. We're going off the user that created, like, we have this database design is set up so that the foods that are found or manually added, which I guess I haven't exposed a way to like manually add a food item other than like doing a quick add, but the idea is that those are all instanced by the user that created them, so you have your own set of foods. And then there's also like a concept of like a verified one that can also exist that would be separate from individually created food. So there would be like an authoritative database of like vetted items, because that seemed like a good thing to model. Okay, so like it seems like all the search stuff is working, with the exception of the barcode. Let's see. I don't have things set up right now to test the barcode scanner though, so I'll have to punt on that one until later. It was working the last time I was actually able to get to it, so we'll just leave that as is. Get rid of that import that we don't need anymore. So I guess the next thing to do is for me to remember where that to-do was. Is that in here? Yes. Yes. Add dispatch for add food to meal, right? Because we want to did all this work to be able to get to this point, and we want to be able to add our 40 grams. Oops, I clicked out of the dialog. 40, not 4,000 grams, 40 grams, please, of our organic ginger cubes. And so clicking that button should add it to the diary, but it doesn't. So how do we do that? We do have a diary slice, and maybe, ooh, to-dos. Anyway, maybe that should live here, since we have move consumption and delete consumption. We should probably have an add consumption. Yep. I don't know if that's actually the name of the, maybe it is. Is that the name of the procedure? Add consumption. Add consumption. At least I'm consistent. All right, so for this to work, we need the meal ID, the food ID, the number of servings, and when it occurred. Optionally, I think it defaults to now, otherwise. Does it? Where is the schema? Validators, context, Prisma. Oh, it's Prisma. Prisma, schema.prisma. And we're looking for the consumption model. Yeah, it defaults to now if it's not provided. Okay. So, yeah, so we should be able to at least get something implemented here to actually be able to add a thing to the diary. And we just need to then add some handlers for that. we could also do what we're doing here. And yep. Yep. There it is. All right, so then we want to dispatch add consumption. No, I meant add consumption. We just need to import that. And then, yeah, it's complaining because we're trying to dispatch a thunk and the types aren't happy about that. What else is it complaining about? So we're supposed to be passing in a meal ID and a food ID and number of servings. So what is add? So we get details. Specifically, we get, let's see here. So handle select food. No. Handle add food to meal. Handle add food to meal. So we get a meal ID. We get a date. We get a food ID, serving size, and servings. So what's interesting is that add consumption does not take serving size. Servings. Occurred on date. Yeah, we're not saying what the type is of that. Is there a on show? No, on add food to meal. We should. Wait, where was the code that I was just working on relative to this? Okay, so we should extract this type somewhere. Food consumption details. There we go. And then we can say that this takes that. And then string is not assignable to type date. Which is defined here. It's supposed to be a date. And where's the state coming from? Coming from the dialog. And date is details.date, which is a string there as well. Just do this for now. So I feel like there was a to-do at one point about the fact that there is, like if you look at this, let's see, I'm searching for ginger. Like we're selecting servings and serving size. Wasn't there, so on done, serving size servings. We are calling add food to meal with serving size and servings. So is this just, oh no, it's both are there. Oh, right. But the issue is that the let's go ahead and add serving size here. But so the issue is that the tRPC procedure doesn't provide an input for serving size. It's not a string. I don't know, what is it. Let's click plus. Oh, it did a thing. Let's see, what does that look like? Add consumption request. So we got food ID 1, meal ID 1. I think this is the first food I ever searched for. That's why it's ID 1. Meal ID 1 occurred on today's date. Servings 40, serving size 1. Like 1 gram. If we look at the schema, the model for consumption, so we have a servings. It's like the number of servings. So this is the part that I think that this procedure is missing, is that I think I added the stuff to do with container size after this was implemented. So if null, servings is the number of servings of food.serving size. Right, so whatever the default serving size is on the food. And here, these are talking about the serving size int. Serving size ID, rather. So, but if this is not null, so if container size is set, then servings is the number of servings of container size.size. And I think this value that we're passing in serving size, I don't know if that's representing grams or if that's the container size ID. It might be the container size ID. Let's look in Prisma Studio. We have container sizes. There is a size 1. So let's assume that this is a... I'm going to make it not optional. It's essentially that ID. In fact, you know, since I'm adding this anyway, I might as well just define it explicitly as container size ID. And then we can create this like so. So we'll expect that when we're adding the consumption, we will explicitly provide the container size that we're going to be using. Now I think... Yeah, so let's test something really quick. So if I change the serving size back to the default servings, and say 1, and click add, serving size 100. Okay, so this is wrong. This should be like where are the values from this dropdown coming? Is a question. Because they should be based on container sizes, or I was expecting that I was going to do the work on the back end of converting whatever gets entered into a container size, which would be weird since there's not a way to edit this here. Let's go down a rabbit hole. Oh, and that's highlighted like that. It almost looked like a link. I was like, why is that a link? But it's not a link. It's just blue when it's focused. Okay, so don't need any of this stuff right now. I want to look at... so that's the consumption component. Okay, this is looking familiar. So we have this container sizes that we are pulling from information about the food. container, handle serving size change. So actually what might be helpful is tracing back where, so at the handle add food to meal is being passed to add on add food to meal, which is being called by on done. We get back serving size and servings because we already know the other information. So consumption on done. So on done. Okay, so consumption actions, wherever that's defined, takes on done. And passes is a bunch of information. So we have serving size and servings and serving ID. Okay, so what's interesting here is that there's this type, consumption data, and that's what's being passed here. Serving ID. And so presumably like the servings and serving size, this was what we were dealing with before. The idea of having containers as explicit entities were present, because we don't need serving size. That's not going to do us anything. Serving ID. Okay. It's not going to do anything for us is what I mean to say. On add food to meal. So that's that food consumption details. So this is serving ID is a number or it's null. There we go. Okay, so that's happy, but something else is going to be unhappy. Serving ID. We're going to pass that into there. And now add consumption, which one thing, you know, for Redux versus the solution that I had kind of crafted before is that it's much easier to get to where we're calling the API. So the issue now is that the add consumption procedure itself, I think I would rather have this called container size ID, and we'll translate that. Yeah, that needs to be nullable. Optional. Is that the same thing? It's not the same thing, but can I pass in a null? Is this going to... or undefined, whereas this is or null, so that's not going to be, yeah, so we need to, we can do null-ish, that makes it happy. Okay. But I think I want to propagate this container size ID backwards. So that should be like that. Okay, at least one layer. And then, so we have container size ID. And that's acceptable to it. So that might work. We click plus now. What does that do? So that had a null container size ID, which makes sense because we're just using the default container / serving size. And then if we select 1 gram and say 40 of them and click plus, then in that add consumption, container size ID is 1, which is the container size that we saw here. This is the 1 gram size. And 40 servings. So the other thing I notice here is that we've been adding these items, but they're not showing up in the diary. Like if we refresh, I'm hoping we'll see, aw, they're not there. Well, that's not what I was expecting. I was kind of expecting that they would be there, and we were just not seeing them because the state wasn't updating. So we are adding, yep, data. So we created a consumption 62. There it is. Container size null, servings 1, food ID 1. Food is selected, meal is selected, and this meal object that it's associated with is tied to the user, so that should be good. And then the date. Oh right, we're not today's diary. 5/7/2023. Occurred on. Except that's in UTC, so yesterday. Oh, are we broken? We made a request and oh wait, that looks like an odd request. Oh, I see, that's the next. Okay, so does our, oh, or did we crash? Dev server? Wait, why are there two of these? There shouldn't be two of those. Oh. It's odd. I feel like something has changed in morning prop class name did not match server client. What has happened that has made our text so large? What is going on here? Huh. Well, regardless, I mean, the items are there yesterday. We created them all for yesterday. And I think I've not observed this before because we were probably not passing in occurred on in past passes. So let's take a closer look at this. So if we add this, done, we should see. Did it not do anything? Add to breakfast plus. Oh, there we go. I probably clicked done instead of plus. This, I'm not super happy with what's going on with this modal. is just a lot. Like in the mobile version of this, I think we just take over, like it becomes a separate screen or however that works. I don't remember exactly, but it's not great. All right, so we are calling add consumption, and we're passing in the date. We're trying to pass in the date, except it is, so we're on yesterday's diary, so we're trying to interact with yesterday, but we're passing in midnight UTC on the 6th, which is not helpful. So why are we doing that? Well, I think it's, we took the date somewhere here, which was a string, and we wrapped it with new date. And that was seemingly reasonable. Where did I do that? Somewhere in the code. Here we go. Occurred on new date. So this string is probably just like 2023-05-06 in this case, because it's for yesterday. And then it tries to turn it into a date and a time, which mixed feelings about. I think the actual model stores it just as a date and not as a time, which is fun because what does that actually represent? A date without a time? Presumably the date and wherever the user is, whatever time zone they're in. But we are, the Prisma Studio shows us this occurred on as a date and time. I closed the schema, but schema, there we go. Occurred on is a date time, so that makes sense. I guess a question to ask is, if we're on the current diary and we add a food item, you maybe could infer, well, it wouldn't even make sense to assume that, like, when you added it, like if I'm adding something on today's diary, but it's for breakfast, then it's actually, I'm just going back to add something that I had at breakfast, but it's later in the day. You wouldn't necessarily want to capture the current time anyway. So that wouldn't make sense. Regardless, I think what we need to do is what do we need to do? So when we create this date, because occurred on here needs to be a date, apparently, we need to convert it to a time on that date that it needs to be a date and time that represents, would fall in that 24-hour block for the user's current time zone. And that basically has to happen on the front end, because we're not, I guess maybe we're storing, what does our user model have? We are storing a time zone. That's fun. I think it's going to make sense, though, that the date and time that's stored in the DB is going to reflect the date and time we want to represent as a a date and time in UTC. So what we want to do, and probably the easiest thing to do, is that whatever this date is, we want it to be represent a point in time in the user's local time zone that is on that date. How do we accomplish that? That's a good question. How do we do that? I'm used to having to deal with like a date and time. But in this instance, we don't have a specific time. We just want it to be sometime on that date. I guess what's interesting though is that, hold on. Let's go back to the browser. So if we have new date, 2023-05, what is today's date? The 7th? 07. So this is like what we're doing here, right? So, and it gives us something back. You know, what the browser is rendering out here is that date. I think it's taking the date and saying, oh, that's midnight UTC, and we don't want that, right? So how do we not do that? You know, we do have day.js. Maybe there's day.js. Maybe there's something helpful in here that will do what we want. Right, so we want to parse a string. Right, parse the given ISO 8601. You should use string plus format. Custom parse format plugin. Do we have day.js? No, okay. I could just have something here that's like console log day.js. (2023) 05 07. I have to import it. So we should be able to, oh, hey, look. So this seems to do what we want, which is kind of funny because when it describes its parsing as parsing ISO 8601, I kind of assumed that would mean that if we didn't have like time zone information on the end of it, that it would treat it as UTC, but it seems like it's interpreting that as midnight on that date, which is what we're after. There's a toDate there as well. So there we go. That is what we're after. Except of course, we'll pass in the date we get. Okay. So now if we go to today, add to breakfast. Well, this is interesting. So we already have the search result. Is this going to do the right thing? Network. Add consumption. The 7th. Yes. Now we're seeing the thing that I thought we were going to see in the first place, which is that this diary page doesn't update with the added item, which we can fix. We did implement that refresh diary action, so we could probably dispatch that. But that's good. It's good that that seems to be working. So, yeah, diary slice. So we add consumption, and we can I wonder, we could be clever. We could try to be clever and manually insert the added item into the diary. Or we could dispatch refresh diary. Can we do that from inside of these extra reducers? Can you dispatch from here? We don't need action here anyway. I mean, I guess since we are mutating here, once this completes, then we could use Thunk API. Yeah, Copilot knows. So now, if we go find an apple, a crisp and tart Granny Smith apple. Okay, 1 serving, sure. Let's add that. That didn't work. That should have worked. Did it add it? It did add it, but the refresh didn't refresh. Do we need to do something else here? Have we tried to do this Thunk API dispatch thing before? We have done this before. Here. Okay. And that did work. Add consumption implicitly has type any because it does not have type annotation. Because we didn't provide what is this complaining about? Huh. Why? Why is this one problematic? It wasn't before I added this line. It knows what the type is of this. Huh. Or that wasn't actually an issue. That was a right. Typescript TSC watch telling us about a problem that was a problem long ago. Okay, so never mind. So I would think that if we were awaiting this mutate, that by the time we got to dispatching refresh diary, the consumption would be in the diary, and so refreshing would work, right? Because we are updating state.meals. But it doesn't seem like it worked. Let's try adding something again. Okay, let's look at the Redux. So add consumption fulfill. I mean, so the add consumption pending starts when we start doing the request. But like the backend request should have completed before we started the refresh. Why did the date go away? Yeah, why did the date go away there in that state? Oh, okay, right, because we're saying if we're refreshing the diary, okay, maybe we wouldn't want to do that anyway, because we could be editing a different day's diary. And then fulfilled. It doesn't look like we got any results from refresh diary. Oh, well, of course not, because if there's no date, we return. What was I thinking? In fact, why would I clear user ID and date? Whatever user ID and date we're on, that's what we want to refresh, right? Right, so if we, let's add a nice refreshing Coke for breakfast. Please don't. Okay, so that didn't refresh. Is this even working? Let me just refresh the page. Let's try some more ginger. Huh? It looked like something happened. So we had the add consumption pending, and then we started refreshing, and no state change, and then fulfilled, but the only thing that changed was loading changed. Although, yeah, okay. So pending to idle. And that's an interesting thing, right? If we have nested things that are doing like loading activities, like one shouldn't say, oh, well, I'm done, so the state should go back, maybe. Okay, but that doesn't look like it worked. List consumption by meal. User settings, user ID, or undefined date settings. That date. Interesting. Okay, so here we are. State that settings that... Why settings? That's not right. This is a copy-paste error. Okay, so... Right, because it should be diary. The only reason Typescript wasn't yelling at us is because we said, oh, well, this is actually an object called that has a key settings that has a diary state in it, which is just wrong. I mean, I guess we kind of have to do that because getState just returns something unknown. I guess there's not like a type argument. It looks like it returns S based on API. Meals. Interesting. So create async thunk. Is this something we could be doing that would tell it what the shape of the state is? Async thunk return thunk arg curried thunk API config. Maybe. Huh. Extends async thunk config. Where's that? There it is. State unknown. Declare type state unknown. Dispatch extra. Extend state for... Okay. Maybe there's something we could do to tell it, create async thunk to about what the state is that we're dealing with. But regardless, maybe that'll fix our refreshing issue. Let's add something else again. All right, there it is. So whichever diary page we're on, this should work, right? So if we go back to the third and we add the same thing, yeah, there it is. And I refreshed this and it showed that day's information. So past me left a fun bug or two in this refresh diary thunk, but that seems to be working now. All right. So what's next? I mean, I could look at some of these to-dos, but I'm not going to do that right now. So it seems like we can add, we can cancel, we can show all results. Maybe even the barcode scanner works. But can't really see that right now. Oh, that's fun. Not a number. Presumably just don't have, 0, 0, 0, so then it tries to sum those and divide. Whoops. I guess we could fix that real quick. Yeah, that should be a quick fix. Famous last words. Consumption is the component. What do we have going on? So somewhere in here, right? So I think there's a little component inside of here. So we have the donut chart, and then we have. Here, let me switch to the component view. So we have macro stats. That is this component that seems to have the issue. Macro stat. Macro states. I think that should be macro stats. Yeah. Macro states. Make sure that. Okay. Cool. Oh, there we go. It auto fixed the import. Wherever it was in this. Okay, so the other thing we can do is we can actually look at this for once. I believe we have a thing, a story, don't we? We have the donut chart one there. Do we not have one for the macro stats? Do we have one for consumption? Here, loading, add. There we go. I love the little animation that it does. So we can actually look at the story for this component, and we can add one where it has kind of bad data. We'll not worry about the play right now. View can be add. How's this gonna work? All right, so we're gonna say empty data. So oh, I see. Okay, so we're copying everything from add, and then instead of args, we're copying everything from add.args. And then what we can do is we can specifically override food inside of args. Like this. And so what we were seeing was the fat and protein and carbs were all 0. And was that provoking our NaN situation? Yes. Okay. So macro stats again. So the way this component is working is that it takes an array of items to display called data, and we're just iterating over data. We're mapping over data to show a box for each one. And that percentage comes from taking the item kilocalories divided by the total kilocalories and multiplying by 100. So if the total kilocalories is 0, we are going to have not a number, percentage. I guess the question is, if it's 0 total, I guess, do we want to show a percentage? Do we want to say, what do we want to actually show here? Like we could... So what does macro stat styles look like? Okay. So we could do something like if kilocalories is 0, Yeah, we could just return null. We could do that. And then we just see an empty box. I don't think we want to do that though. It should look a little nicer. Oops. We'll just reproduce the same thing here. But we can say something. Not 0%. We can say no data. Class name %. What does that do? No, I don't want to do that. That is apparently a thing. Let's try that. Sure. I think that's okay. It's better than NaN. All right. So nothing to do with Redux at all, just something that offended me. So that's good to resolve. And but seriously though, what is the next thing to do? We need to look at other places where we're still using the old state management solution, which would be things that are using store, like, so this index.ts is all to do with the Redux store, I believe. Is that true? Well, we're definitely exporting default configure store, producers and middleware, and we have the slices. We're also exporting like use observable. So anything that's using use observable still needs to be updated. Let's maybe make a list here of, so there's background requests snack bar. That's a try. that's an attempt. What else do you get for us? Nope. Okay. Quick add is using use observable. I don't know why you suggested the same thing again, Copilot. And then pages diary index.tsx looks like it uses use observable. And I mean, that's a pretty good guess, Copilot. Pages diary date.tsx appears to also use use observable. And pages diary user slug date tsx. All right, yeah, this is actually index.tsx there. tsx, there we go. Oh, it's decided that this is actually YAML. Plain text, please. And then the stuff in store uses it because it's defining it, but that's fine. Places to update since they use observable. Okay. What other things? Like if we look at this, looking for use store. Interesting. Yeah, I think use store is also a good indicator. Is there anything in here that we haven't already captured? Let's just say places to update to use Redux. Edit consumption. We already had quick add. Pages diaries index, yes. Diary date. User slug. Context is going away, and so is hooks. So that added one more thing. What else is kind of indicative of the old style besides use observable and use store? I think those are the big things. There's another use. There's like use dialogue, or did that go away? I think maybe we've already removed that. Let's see, store. So we have context. Use create store, I think is, well, it's used in stories, but I think it's only used in layout as well. So layout.tsx. Eventually, it's kind of last thing to go, because that's how we're hooking up the old state management solution. I guess also mock.tsx looks to be using that. Hooks. So we also had to use dialog state, but nothing is using that anymore. It is removable. Are we using this dialog type in that specific case? Some places still. Yeah, so able to start cleaning up some things that are no longer being used. So this will be kind of a list of the kind of the next projects, mini projects in this bigger project of switching to Redux. And with that, I think this is going to be it for the stream. I'm going to save our changes in a very big commit, but progress from stream on 2023. In the future, if I want to understand like what were all these changes, I guess I can just watch the VOD. So all right, so we're gonna end the stream shortly. Thanks for watching, and until next time.